Greetings, my dear viewers. Welcome back to another Dungeons & Dragons character concept. In this series, in case you're new, is where I, Drahon, take a look at the different races in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition and see, according to the lore, what backgrounds and what classes would best fit that race. Just in case you can't think of any good character combinations, you can always fall back to these as sort of a base for a character. Today we are going over the Genasi. Genasi are when a genie sees a human and goes, "I'd hit that," and creates one of these races. Now, the Genasi come in 4 different sub-races: Earth, Air, Fire, and Water, each from a different genie parent. Very similar to the Osama and the Tiefling. Though, unlike the Osama and Tiefling, the only way a Genasi is born is by this interracial marriage, or interracial intercourse. The correct term for what these half genies are, I'm not allowed to say, because YouTube and my moral compass is stronger than adamantine. But Joe Cat does say it in his song about the races. One of the few races he actually gets right. I mean, seriously, Joe Cat, how hard is it to look up the lore on Dragonborn when you've already done so for the Genasi? Even though you put them after the Dragonborn in your song. Anyway, let's get into this. Like I said, there are 4 different Genasi. The Son of the Deo, which are Earth, Son of the Jinn, which are Air, Son of the Ifriti, Fire, and the Son of the Marids, which are Water. Now, you could, theoretically, go to your Dungeon Master and ask if you could reflavor the lore to where it can just be any elemental that you have a parent of. Since technically speaking, the genies are all elementals, and the Genasi only list the element that they have heritage in, not the actual genie race archetype. It's what I did with the Percy Jackson video. I used Genasi as the race. For some reason I got 2 dislikes. Maybe it was because I used the wrong imagery? Maybe the video wasn't quite good enough. Probably didn't have a good quality on it. I don't know. Anyways, for backgrounds, we do have a diverse selection since we have 4 different sub-races. For Air, Charlatan, Entertainer, and Noble would be good choices. For the Earth Genasi, the Hermit, Outlander, or even the Soldier would be pretty good choices. Fire, Criminals, Folk Heroes, or Nobles would be good choices. And for Water, Hermit, Sailor, and Marine would be the most obvious of choices. Now for classes, well, you could go with any of them. So let's just go ahead and get straight into things. That way I can show you what subclasses will best fit a Genasi character. Starting things off with the Sorcerer. For Air, the Storm Sorcerer will be your best choice. Earth Sorcerers would be of the Stone origin, which is an unearthed arcana. Water Genasi would have the origin of the sea, which is also Unearthed Arcana. A Genasi of the Fire would best fit the Pyromancy or the Phoenix origins. Now, Sorcerer obviously would be because of their bloodline. Since the genies are already magical, it makes sense for their children to be magical. So, Sorcerer. Moving on to Warlock, there is only one patron that technically makes sense, and that is the patron of the genie. Because of their genie parent. They would probably get some powers from their genie parent. Of course, Earth being Deo, Air being the Jinn, Water being the Merid, and the Fire being the Ifriti. Moving on to the monk, their monastic tradition would most definitely be the 4 elements. Now, if your DM were to homebrew a sub-race for the other 2 types of genies, which I had mentioned in the Adrian Agrest video, one of the genies, name slips my mind, but they don't have an element, quote-unquote, to their name. They are elementalists. They're still elementals, technically, but they are of the Shadowfell and are made of shadow. So, it would make sense to, if your dungeon master had these type of genies in their world, it would make sense that there would be a player character with a Genasi sub-race of similar origin. And for that, I would suggest either a Shadow Monk or a Long Death Monk. Moving on to Ranger, the best choice, in my opinion, is going to be the Horizon Walker. Because each of the parent genies of the Genasi race are from different elemental planes, it would make sense that your Genasi would want to protect that plane from the other elemental planes. Since there have been recorded history of the other planes wanting to wage war on each other. For a Druid, most of the time you're going with Circle of the Land. Let's go ahead and see the best choices for each one. For the Water Genasi, Arctic, Coast, and Swamp would probably be your best choice. For Air, Mountain, Arctic, and Desert are good choices. For Earth, Mountain, Underdark, and Desert. Now for a Fire Genasi, the Circle of Wildfire makes the most sense. Well, because more fire. Don't think I've explained myself too much on that one. Moving on to Wizard. Now, the 3 schools of magic that actually make sense in my opinion would be the Blade Singer, War Magic, and Order of the Scribes. Now, these can go to any Genasi, per se. War Magic, however, I see more for the Ifriti and the Deo children. Order of the Scribes would go to just about anyone. Blade Singer, I see more as the air or even a water Genasi, but it still fits perfectly well with the others. For a fighter, I would suggest for an air Genasi the Battle Master or the Samurai. For Earth, I would recommend Champion or Brute, which is an Unearthed Arcana. For the Fire Elementals, personally, I think a Renegade or a Gunslinger would be quite nice for a fire Genasi. For the water Genasis, I would recommend either the Cavalier or the Banneret. Why Cavalier? Well, in the plane of water, you do have a lot of giant seahorses. So you would probably look good as a Cavalier riding one of these things. That's just my opinion, though. For the Barbarian, any Genasi could go with an Ancestral Guardian, Beast, or even a Wild Magic Barbarian. However, for more individuality, for an Iron Genasi, the Storm Herald Barbarian makes perfect sense. Water, obviously, Path of the Depths. For Earth, Path of the Juggernauts. And for Fire, most obvious pick is going to have to be Path of the Berserker. But again, and as always, up to you on what path your Genasi takes. And that is all I have for you today, my dear viewers. I hope you enjoyed. I will make sure to have links to the places where I got the lore of the Genasi in the description. And I'm going to have to go back to my other videos and make sure to post links to where the lore is in those videos' descriptions, because for some reason I forgot to do that. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time. This has been Drahan, and I am offline.